This webinar today is NetDocs on mobile devices, and the fun slash scary part is I actually do this on a smartphone. Excuse me. So I'm going to switch the presentation over to the smartphone when we get into the webinar, and I'll show you how I use NetDocs there. Before we do that, we like to see what's up to date with NetDocs. What new webinars do we have coming out with Optiable? And what NetDocs tip articles, and I've actually rewritten 5 articles for this webinar today. So if we want to take a look at that, and I'm not even using the training computer, I'm using my real computer here. So let's do the what's new with NetDocuments, and we'll fumble around here. So, all right. So the web refreshes, I don't know if they're changing this or they're just going to keep it on 2025. Every year we used to get a new one, and they've just kept it on 2025 here. Even though this is obviously February 23rd, 2026. So nothing's changed here, just an update to the ND web export functionality. We talked about it last time. Let's just come over to see under announcements. New releases. So there's a pattern builder update, web refreshes. We've talked about all these. This will actually 2.7, 2.71, 2.72. This will all actually feature filter into the webinar that we're doing today. So that's what's new there. Let's come over to, I'm going to switch it up. We'll go to events first. So we're doing the NetDocs on mobile devices. And then March 18th, we'll do an office hours. April 1st, I'll do an AI assistant training. That's NetDocs AI assistant, which a lot of you have now. April 8th, I'll do a training just on ND Sync, not the boy band and nothing else. And then we got another office hours. May 6th, we got a task training. As always, if you have a suggestion for a topic that you would like, please let me know because I'm tired of trying to make these up on my own. Let's come over to NetDocs tips here. This is our blog. The one thing I'll point out here is there's way too many articles to begin with on here. We cycle through these articles and update them because, they change all the time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are all about using NetDocs on your smartphone. A lot of these were written years ago. I rewrote all of them, added new stuff, added new screenshots, cleaned them up. So they're just a lot nicer here, and we'll cover all of these today. So we'll go over all of these. This is a big part of the webinar, but if you have any questions about anything that we've gone over, I would come over here and look at these articles. I am updating the manual as well, but it's not ready yet. But I have been working on updating the manual. Honestly, I got to go through and update all the screenshots because like this no longer works. Like that's changed. So I got to update some of these screenshots and clean it up. I'll have that done by the end of the week. Let me just see. Do I have one about the um nah, we'll just keep it at that. All right. So actually I'll cover what I wanted to cover in the actual webinar. All right, let's jump back into it before I start sharing my screen. So what are we talking about today? Okay, using NetDocs on a smartphone, which is not as easy. I wouldn't say it's as easy, but there's just a lot of pieces here. Because on an Android and iOS, there is an app. So we'll talk about that. And then you have to log into that app. Most of you are using single sign-on, so we have to talk about doing that. Now, once you install that app, there is something called ND Keyboard, which works on Android and iOS. It's basically a keyboard that you can select which will allow you to put links into text messages, into Teams messages, into emails. But ND Keyboard comes when you download the app. Then there's MS Office on mobile, Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint. Word, Excel, and PowerPoint all have the ability to add NetDocs as a location so that you can save and open up documents there. Honestly, that's really only something I ever used when I had an iPad. I never really used that on my smartphone itself. And then there is a NetDocs Outlook 365 application. This is not ND Mail. It is not ND Save. It is pushed out centrally via Office 365. When you have that on your computer in Outlook, you can save email attachments and you can save emails and you can well, email attachments, you could send email attachments and you can save emails with those attachments embedded in there. But you don't need the NetDocs app for that. This is just exist here to begin with. So once we get done with all this, we will cover the Q&A. I will finish the slide, and it's honestly not that much longer, and then we will watch me fumble switching it over to my phone and trying to do all this. All right. So always get this question when people try to download the app, because when you go in there, there's a couple of NetDocs apps. You want the NetDocs app, okay? So open in the App Store, search for NetDocs. This is iOS. Same thing for Android. You do not want NetDocs for EMM or BlackBerry. You just want the regular NetDocs app to download onto your computer. When you go to log in, there's a couple things you need to be aware about. I think by default, it is the United States. So if you're in Canada, you'll have to change your login to the United States if you're on the Canadian data center, or if you're on a US government data center, or Germany, or UK, or Australia, you'll have to switch the data center to make sure you're logging in correctly. Second thing is that most of my firms are using single sign-on. So you don't have a NetDocs username or password. And I feel like when people download the app, they forget that and they type in their username and password, which is their Office 365 Windows password, and it doesn't work. There's a button that says use single sign-on. You have to click on that button and then you're logged in. And this is when you have the app, and this is also when you're using any of the other applications there. So the settings icon allows you to change all that. ND keyboard. Okay, so once you've installed, prerequisite here is you've installed the NetDocs app on your Android or iOS. And then you have to go in to the keyboards. And I have a blog post about this that goes explains how to do it. And you have to add the keyboard so that you have that option. So case in point of when I would use this, I'm texting back to someone. Not okay, so I wouldn't be texting back to someone at my office. I'm sending a Teams message to someone at my office, and I can switch it to keyboard, and I can grab a document and email link them that document right there. That's what the keyboard is there for. So once you've installed NetDocs app on Android or iOS, you then have to install the keyboard. I'll also be honest here. I don't use Android. I know I did have an Android tablet. I don't even know where it is anymore. I think I gave it away because, and it's nothing against Android. Don't get mad at me if you're an Android user. It's just that I know iOS. So I would say that all the articles are probably a little more geared to iOS, but you can kind of figure it out. And these steps should work. They appear to work. And I originally wrote everything with an Android tablet, so I'm sure they're okay. So the keyboard, I don't use the keyboard a lot, by the way, either. I mean, we'll go over it today, but it's not something I really use a lot. But that you install the regular NetDocs app, and it gives you the ability to use the NetDocs keyboard, and we will show you what that is today. Um, all right. Using Microsoft Office on mobile with NetDocuments. So the NetDocs app itself that you install on your smartphone is great for viewing stuff. All right. Well, what happens if you want to make a change to a Word document? Well, what happens if you were on a computer that didn't have Word and you were in NetDocs and wanted to make a change to a Word document? You would have an issue, right? Because you don't have the Word program. So, same thing here. You first off have to have Microsoft Office on your smartphone. Once you have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook's a little bit different, so we'll cover that separately. You will go into Word, Excel, PowerPoint. When you click on Open, there's an option to add storage account in iOS, add place in Android, and that will allow you to select from a list and choose NetDocs, which means in Word, you can go to Open, browse the NetDocs, select a Word document, open it up, make changes, and save it back into the system. Same thing with Excel and PowerPoint. I only use this when I had an iPad. I never use it on my iPhone. And I think it's more of a real estate issue that it's just really hard to edit documents on my iPhone. Now, I do use the NetDocs app to go in and view documents. That I do all the time, but I don't really edit a lot, although that's completely capable as well. And then attaching documents to emails. Well, there's only four ways of doing it. You can browse to the app if you have it. You can browse from Outlook. So if you're creating a new email, add attachment, browse to the NetDocs app. If you're in the NetDocs app, you can share. We'll do all these. You can copy an internal link, or you can use ND Keyboard. All right, saving emails into NetDocs. This is where we need the M365 Outlook add-in to be installed. Now, I've always had firms install this when we go live with NetDocs so they can save emails from their smartphone. Also, so they can use Outlook in the new version of Outlook, Outlook for Mac, or Outlook Web Access. You also must be using the Outlook app for Android or iOS. You're not saving this stuff with the Mac Mail app. Like other Apple Mail app isn't going to work. The Gmail isn't going to work. It's got to be Outlook. So when you open up any email, you'll click on three dots, you'll choose the NetDocs, and then end email will come up and you will profile it. All right. Now, before I forgot this, so let me come over here to my NetDocs account. Fortunately, we're not on my demo computer. Let me go into admin real quick. And we're going to come over to the three lines right here. And I'm going to come over to ND Sync and mobile management. How the heck I don't have this in the manual or the webinar is stupid on my part, okay? Because I should have it on here because it's important. So a couple things to point out here. When a user's account is removed from the repository, we want to unlink all devices and wipe all content. So that should be set. Mobile device access. If you're like, I don't want anyone to be able to use the NetDocs app, you would change this to do not allow any NetDocs app. This would prevent them from logging in to the NetDocs app on their Android or iOS device. Okay. They could still download it, but they won't be able to log in. Now, if they don't have the app, they would still be able to save emails. Okay. But they're not going to be able to view stuff. And um, most of the time when we're using this, it is basically if I email someone an email link and that person works in my law firm and they're standing in line at Starbucks, I want them to be able to view the document. My recommendation is that you keep this on, okay? The app is not how people are going to steal documents from your law firm. So I would keep this on. What you can do is set it up for your IT person. So when anyone at our company adds the app, it then goes in and emails them. All right. Or emails me, letting them know that someone has added the app. Other thing you see here is the suspend and remove. Well, I can block access to the app on a per user basis, or so like for my iPhone here, oh, I can just remove. So this would block all the data from there. I don't know why the suspend is not set up there. Maybe that's only for remove. So remove just wipes all the data if they are connected. All right, so those are the settings, and I will add that to the manual as well. So we'll clean this up. All right, now this is the fun part. So bear with me here, but I am going to get on my phone. All right, and I'm muted, so hopefully there is no background. And now I'm going to share my screen, and we'll start the broadcast. All right. Perfect. All right. Could someone just raise your hand if you're seeing my iPhone screen now? Just let me, and there's no background, everything's working. All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, so let's have some fun using NetDocs on your smartphone now. So we're just going to go over a lot of different things. So the first one here is just let's get into Outlook because it's the high level here and it's what most people are doing. So I'm going to open up Outlook. All right. Here is my Outlook inbox. How do we save email? I'm going to click on an email. And by the way, it's going to be hard for me to I can't like usually I would circle, I would take out my little pencil and circle. It's going to be a little harder here, but in this email here, under the 12:53 p.m. is three dots. If we click on those three dots, this screen opens up, and we're going to want to come over to where it says NetDocs and select. This opens up NetDocs so that we can save this email into NetDocuments. Now, because let's see here. Let's just go over the options here. So the very top, we are selected to file this email, okay? And there's some options there, not really used a lot in this, maybe more in the mobile device. Then the next thing we do is we have the email subject name. And then we have under filing location, we have our cabinets that we have access to. All right. So all I have to do is choose a matter and hit file, and I have saved the email into that file. Now we also have this recent locations will let me search again. Favorites are my favorite matters, and the search button is going to allow me to search for any matter to find a document, to find a matter there. So that is saving an email. Now, one of the things I'm just going to do here is I'm going to come over back to NetDocs and I want to actually show you the login process. So just bear with me here. So let me hit log out here. All right, so let's do it again from the beginning. I'm going to click on the three dots here. We're going to click on this. The first time you will need to log in. Please work. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. And in fact, the thing that makes me worried is because I added the training account here. Let's just, okay, it came up. I set all this up, but I didn't want it to not work. All right. So we go to log in. Where are you? You might have to change it to Canada. Most people on here are in the US and Canada. So now I'm just we're leave it on US. I'm gonna hit next. All right. Now, where most people screw up, username and password, they try to enter a username and password. I'm gonna click continue with SSO because I'm using single sign-on. Now I am going to type in my training account. All right, log in with SSO. So this is, everyone is used to doing this, and you only really should have to do this the first time. Wayner. All right, then I got to come over to password here. I have a password manager, so I can come over and great. There it is. Well, thank you. All right. All right. That's the way we'll do it. Great. All right. So the problem I'm having here is it is not letting me log in, and this is going to be super annoying. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to switch it over to Craig's inbox. All right. So we'll just go this way. So I'm logged in. Sorry, I can't show you the login process. I mean, I went through most of it, but not there. So let's just come over to the three dots again. NetDocs. This is going to allow us to save. Again, we can choose the client cabinet. We can choose any other cabinets we have ND mail to. And then we would choose a workspace and we would hit file and we have saved that email into there. All right. Now, this option here allows me to look at recent locations, favorite locations, and I can search for something. So I can even come over and we're going to choose Bluth Company here, select, and then I could come over and I'm going to choose acquisition by Sitwell Industries so I could file that way as well. Other options, access. Who should, you're saving an email to the system, who should have access to it? Default is what normally you're doing. Participants are only people on the email, and me would just make this hidden to me, but everyone else. So those are your options there. Let's come over to the three dots and settings. Here are our settings, and you need to be really careful here. Because ideally, you're thinking, hey, I'm going to set all these settings, but this will screw up your regular Windows Outlook. Okay. The only setting that I have on here, there's only two, is global filing indicator, which means after I saved an email, let me know I've saved it. I have one click filing on as well. I'd never turn on prompt to file here because the problem is it conflicts with the prompt to file on your regular Outlook and you're going to get two messages. All right. Now, down here, when sharing documents, it does allow each user to configure. So if I'm adding an email attachment, I've configured this to be document name, document ID, and then version number. So it does allow me to do that. All right, I'm going to hit close here. We've gone over how you can save an email. Now, what happens if I want to add an email attachment? All right, so let's create a brand new email. There are several ways of doing it, but I'm going to go through here first. I'm going to go click on attach, and then I'm going to click on attach file. All right, and then I'm going to scroll down to iCloud Drive and device. All right. I don't know if they are going to add anything else. So I'm going to come to this one here. All right. Now this comes up and I'm going to hit browse and then I'm going to click on NetDocs. This will open up the NetDocs app in your iPhone or your Android device. And then I'm going to be able, let me switch it to the demo cabinet here. All right. And then I'm going to come over to, I have to choose a workspace. Let me just do LLC formation. Okay. Oh, let's just come over here to, all right. Now I've added a document and it gets pasted in there. Now, doing it this way, you are only getting email copy, which is okay. How can I get email link? And deliver a secure link doesn't really work on a mobile device. So let me come over here again. If I click on the three dots, I go to NetDocs. Now, this is kind of ass backwards on how I'm doing this, but one day maybe they'll change it. It works perfectly on Outlook Web Access, Outlook for Mac, and new Outlook. I'm going to switch it from file to share. Okay. This is showing me now my recent documents. And if I click on anything here, at the very bottom of this screen, there is a copy. This will copy a link. Okay. So if I hit copy, and now I go to create a brand new email, I can paste it here. That is email link. Okay. So that's one way of doing it. Let's go over some other ways. So I'm going to come over to the NetDocs app. We're going to open that up. So then this is the NetDocs app on my iPhone. Three lines here show us navigation. So on the left-hand side, we've got the home screen. You've got your cabinets. It's defaulted to recent documents. Offline allows you to go and sync certain documents offline. Upload allows you to upload documents from your smartphone here. Sticking with just the email stuff for a second, let's come over to this Microsoft mobile device. So we'll come back over here. Let's come over to, oh, we got to choose something. So recent locations. If I hit the drop down here, there's a share button. So if I come over to share, I have email link, copy to Outlook, or just copy the link. So I'm really using email link or copy to Outlook. So email link is going to open up an Outlook message, and there's the link to the actual document. And then if we do the same thing again, clicking on this arrow drop down, share, copy to Outlook will actually just copy. I gotta choose Outlook here. And then I can fill this out. So if we log into the NetDocs app, we have the ability to copy stuff. We could also come over here, add a home page, would add it to your NetDocs homepage, store offline, would synchronize it locally on my iPhone. Open in, I could come over here and then I could choose Word or something else. Open in Word is an option. So now I'm looking at this manual here. See, this is why I'm telling you that I don't really, I mean, this is all correct. Here is the manual. It's good in a sense for reading. I'm just not going to come in here and make a lot of changes as though I could. And then let's see the other options here. Actions. Delete, rename, copy, lock, checkout. Those are your actions here. These are all NetDocs regular actions that you have as well. All right. If we come over to the search button, we can search, and this is the NetDocs search template where I can go search for stuff. So pretty self-explanatory. We can go plug in any of the information, find anything that we want here. All right. And then let's go over to recents. These are recent documents. And then recently edited, recently opened, recently added. All right. Upload. gallery or browse. So I'm now looking at my computer for documents that I just would happen to have on it. Let's do it again. Let's go to upload gallery. This should be my iPhone pictures. All right. So if I go to all photos here, here's all my pictures. They're all NetDocs screenshots. But this is like, for example, I've done this before. I've been at a client site, taken a picture of something, and then uploaded it to the NetDocs file using the upload right here. So that's what it's there for. Um, Coming over here into the gear with the settings real quick. So this is who you're logged in as. Pass lock means you have to put in a password before you have to go into it. Um, Automatically log in means it should just auto log you in, especially because I've got single sign on. Um, Display the edit using Office action that allows you to edit a document in Word, and then use Outlook for emails. That is your default web browser there. Now, if I turn on passcode lock, um, I think then I also get the biometric example as well. But I mean, I've got my iPhone set to lock and NetDocs is hidden. I'm not really that worried about it. I don't need to, once you get into my iPhone, I don't know if I need to have another password again to get in there, but that's all up to you. All right, that is really the NetDocs app. Now let's go over to Word. I'm going to open up Word here and let's go to Browse. All right, so we're in Word. I'm going to click on Browse. And if we come all the way, okay, here it is. Other location, offline files on my phone, Files app, add storage location. So this is the ability to link Word to NetDocs, not using the NetDocs app. This is something internal. So we'll click on Add Storage Account, and then we're going to come over to where it says NetDocs. Why are there two NetDocs now? Because I think this is going to end up being the way that we do this for everything. So I think the ND save that you install in Word will eventually go away. So I think the second option is the preview NetDocs is working on to just replace the ND save in Excel, Word, etc. But so I would choose this one here, and then I would need to then log in, continue with SSO, and then this is going to give me a NetDocs option. So when I'm in Word on my smartphone, I can go over to open and it's going into and actually grab something from there. All right, let's come over and I think let's go over the one thing that we have not gone over yet, which is the keyboard. So how does that work? Let me go create a brand new email. I'm going to come over here to type in that email. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my keyboards, and I can do that by going to the bottom left hand corner of this phone, clicking on the globe. All right. And then I have a lot of keyboards. So sorry, but this switches my keyboard here. Let me switch it again to this one and then this one. This is it. This is the NetDocs keyboard, okay? And it is showing me my most recent documents. So if I want to then add the NetDocs mobile device guide, I would just click on it here. And then there is the link to the NetDocs mobile device guide. So if I click down on here, I can view information about this guide here, but it's just my most recent documents, which it's allowing me to go through. And then add copies of links to it. That's the keyboard. But I mean, again, I'm doing this in Outlook right now. I could be doing this in a Teams message. I could be doing it in a chat with someone. I'm clicking on the globe, and that allows me to select the actual keyboard here. All right. So, all right, let's just cover what we've gone over. How to save an email into NetDocuments. Now, notice here this email from NetDocs support, because we do have the file locator on there, it says ND filed because it has been saved now. All right. So it is telling us that it's been saved, and that was in the settings there. To save an email, all we're doing is clicking on the three dots, coming over to NetDocs, and then we are going over the profiling process that we needed to go over. I need to switch it back from share to file. And then I'm going to select the matter, and it's going to save those items to that matter. If I come over here and then I'd hit file, and this is working on how the whole thing is set up. We also went over opening up the NetDocs app to view something, to copy something into an email or copy a link into an email, and also how to use that NetDocs app to actually upload stuff to NetDocs. We also talked about the keyboard and how to use that itself. All right, so I'm going to keep sharing this here. Let me come over and reopen this up here. But now I want to open this up to Q&A and chat. Okay. My three-dot menu in the Outlook app is very different than yours and does not have the NetDocs on it. I might have missed a setup step. Do you know how I can get the NetDocs service in the Outlook app? Also, massively good question. The last time we did this training was 2 years ago. So honestly, it's not as tight as some of my other trainings that I do like once a week. So didn't even cover that. And reason being is I just assumed that everyone has this and they might not. So let's come over here to, and this is what I'm going to Google. NetDocs, Microsoft 365 Outlook, and then I'll put my company name in there. All right. So this is how to update the NetDocs app. Let's just see. Do I have how to install it all together? I can just pull this from. All right. Well, I can actually, since we're in my NetDocs, I can be a little more transparent. I don't even have an article about this. When you go live with NetDocuments, and if our firm set you up, we send the following to your IT people. Okay. And this is the end email instructions. Now, what we do is the first part is end email basically for your computer. So if you're in Outlook on your computer and you want to save something, we have that there. The second part is set up end email for Office 365. Set up the Microsoft 365. So this part has to be done. Okay. It's not that hard. I will just throw a blog post up about it today. So under NetDocs tips, it'll be the last one, and it'll just have these settings here. So settings, integrated apps, you're going to come over to upload custom apps. What are you deploying? And I would deploy this. So you copy this link, you put it in here, and then, by the way, the picture's wrong. It doesn't say end email, it says NetDocs. And then I would fix this add-in will be deployed for or available to all users if that's the option. That's the step that you have to do to get this to work in Outlook for on your iPhone, on a Mac, and stuff like that. So if you're not seeing that as an option, that step probably hasn't been done, and just today it'll be one of the posts that explains how to do that. The mobile device guide, I mean, I could, but it's not ready yet. And the mobile device guide should get emailed out to everyone with a copy of this video. I mean, it's completely out of date. So, and honestly, I don't know if for this, I even wonder if the mobile device guide is really that useful. If you just go to NetDocs tips here, the mobile device guide is a combination really of these blog posts. So this explains how to use ND Keyboard. This explains how to use NetDocs with Word. This explains how to set up the NetDocs app on your smartphone. This explains how to add emails on your smartphone, um, how to add NetDocs attachments to emails on your smartphone. And this one explains how to save emails to NetDocs from your smartphone. That is what the guide is. It's just a combination of all five of those articles. And we're about to add a sixth and seventh article. Sixth article is going to be how to make sure that you allow people to use the app at your firm, explaining those settings. And the seventh is going to be how to install the NetDocs plugin so that everyone has it. And then I will finish the guide. And when this video is emailed to everyone, you will get a copy of the guide as well. Because then I have the update guide. My marketing people know to give me till tomorrow to update it. One of the reasons I like doing these webinars is because I go through and cycle through and make sure that everything is up to date. So it's a process. The technology has changed a lot in the last 2 years. So then I've just got to update all the screenshots and everything. All right, let's go over to the Q&A here. Okay, this one, so I answer live. Johnny has an amazing question and something I completely skipped over. Is it possible for users to create map folders in NetDocs using mobile Outlook? Yes, it is possible to do that. And, now, now you just made me create article number 8 on this, but let's come back over. So let's stop sharing my screen here. We're going to come back over here to Zoom. And I'm going to show you what we're talking about here. And we're going to come over to share. I can't believe this sharing worked as well as it did. We really only had that one issue where I attempted to log out and log back in and then was not able to. I'm also not worried about that because I'm logged into multiple accounts on this phone. All right, come on, broadcast. So what the question from Johnny was about folder mapping. Folder mapping, and if this doesn't connect in a second, then I'm just going to go over and do it the other way, but to show you the other way. But folder mapping is the ability to take an Outlook folder and map it to a location in NetDocs. So then when you move an email into the Outlook folder, it automatically gets saved into NetDocs. Now let's just try this again. All right. So how do we do this? We're going to open up Outlook. I'm going to click on this email here, 3 dots. I'm going to click on NetDocs. All right, here's what I didn't show you. So under File here, you're going to change it to the third option, Map. This is going to allow you to do the mapping here, and this is the way you want to be doing it if you're on a mobile device. So we're going to hit Map, all right, and now it's going to look for a folder. Okay, it's saying I don't have any map folders. That's fine. New mapping. So the first thing I have to do is I have to find an Outlook folder now. I don't really have any of these set up, so I know I have a folder there. All right, so pretend that said like some sort of matter. So in Outlook, by yourself beforehand, you would have created these folders under inbox, and most lawyers are creating folders that mimic matter names. So, LLC, like massive dynamic LLC formation, you're creating stuff like that. So you got it. The first thing you're doing is choosing an Outlook folder. Second thing is we're going to choose our cabinet, and then we have to choose a location here. Search for matters. We're going to do Bluth. We'll do Lindsay Bluth, and the matter name is Divorce Select. Oh, let's just do this again. Map, new mapping. Oh, we're doing week. Because I know I got a folder. All right, and then we're going to come over here to Clients Demo, Location LLC. Booth Company LLC formation. All right. So we're saying map it here. Now in the settings on the cabinet, I've said anything that I save into this, anything I save from Outlook, give it the doc type correspondence. That's why I don't have to worry about filling that out. Access, do you want, again, we went over this before, what security access are going into these emails? Should everyone see them or should you make them private to yourself? If there were already things in these folders, do you want those saved into NetDocs as well? That's the copy of the pre-existing folder. Now, if I hit save, I would have mapped this Outlook folder to NetDocs, meaning I have this folder here, 001 CTD week. If I move any email into that folder, it automatically gets saved into whatever area I've mapped that to in NetDocs. Great question. And the folder mapping works, and I recommend you use it. I mean, if you want, if you use folder mapping, I would use that. All right, let's see. Would any of the setup functionally change if the phone is set up with a mobile device management tool like Intune? No. I mean, not really. The only thing would be logging in. I don't think it doesn't affect. I got to think about this for a second because it doesn't affect Outlook, the M365 add-in or anything that we talked about. It does not affect the keyboard. It does not affect the Word, Excel, PowerPoint add-in that way. Setting up the NetDocs smartphone app itself, you might have to do it a different way. I can add that as an FAQ question. That would be the only option there, and I think that's more realistically when we come back over into our settings here. Allow any NetDocs app. Only allow NetDocs for, yeah, I think you would change it to something like that for Intune to work, but I'll check and see. And that's a good blog post as well. I think that's the only setting you have to change there, and then it should be fine. So, good question. I kind of knew the answer, but not really. But most of the stuff it doesn't affect. And again, the thing when I realize when I do this webinar is that NetDocs for smartphone devices is not just the app that you install. Oh, and the other thing that we didn't talk about, which probably I always think is obvious but doesn't, is that you can log into NetDocs from any browser. So on this iPhone, I could open up Safari or I could open up Google or Edge and I could go to the NetDocs website, right? Like you can do that right now. Now, the thing there, just like if you open up the NetDocs website on a computer that doesn't have ND Office, is you just don't really have the link or the integration there. But people can do it that way to see documents as well. I mean, you don't necessarily need to have an app. On my iPad, I just did a shortcut to the NetDocs website. And I would click on that and would automatically just go into NetDocs. And I could email stuff out using the NetDocs email service. I just couldn't get it into Outlook. That'd be always my issue. It wouldn't go into Outlook. It wouldn't open up in Word because there was no connection there. All right. Any other questions about using NetDocs on a mobile device? I expected this to go horribly. So the fact that I could only not log in once was worked out really well. All right, I don't see any more questions. I am going to, like I said, if you go to NetDocs tips, I'm going to update some posts real quick with some of the questions here, and then I will update the manual. And so when the email comes out, the way there, that email that you will all get next tomorrow, the link is always the updated manual. So when I update the manual and save it back into our NetDocs, that link is updated for you as well. Thank you so much for your time today.